Well, hey everybody, thank you for checking in once again and welcome to another one. Today we are looking at some cheap mirrorless cameras that you can buy for less than £500. If you're looking for a cheap mirrorless body, this is the place to find it, so stay tuned. So we really are spoilt for choice when it comes to cheap mirrorless cameras. There are so many of them out there. These cameras are old, but it's not long since they were the newest, fanciest, most up to the minute models. And here's the thing, they don't do any less now than they did when they were new. You may think new camera models coming out means that the camera you have is now less good than it used to be, but it's not less good, it's the same. It's only less good if you want to compare. If you can't make a great image with any of these cameras, no amount of fancy gear will help. So let's start with some of the Sony cameras, and particularly the APS-C Sony cameras. And these are really nice cameras, and a really good example of them is the A6000. That camera is now available for £300 to £400, and it's a very, very capable little machine indeed. It has a pretty small form factor, and I do like cameras that are small and light, and of course because the sensor is smaller than full frame, then the lenses also are smaller than full frame lenses, and that again is an advantage. Remember, there's nothing inherently better about full frame, and there's nothing inherently worse about APS-C. They're just different systems. This camera makes fantastic images. Sony Color Science improved over the years. It didn't used to be that fantastic, but by the time we get to the A6000, it's really becoming quite nice. So the color is really good from this camera. It's got very snappy, quick, efficient autofocus if you're using modern lenses, and there's never any problem with this camera finding focus. Sony focus science, whatever happens inside the camera, is really, really good, and this camera, once it locks on, it's not going to lose that image. It's also great for using manual lenses because Sony focus peaking is some of the best in the business. It's got several different colors, blue, red, yellow and white to choose from, so it will work against all backgrounds. So it's great for vintage lenses also. So this is a really nice little camera. Did I mention the price? If I did, I'll say it again. Available for about £300 to £400. A really lovely little camera. There are later cameras as well, the A6400, and earlier ones like the NEX 5, 6 and 7. The 6 and 7 are better ones because the earlier NEX cameras didn't have viewfinders, but the 6 and 7 do. Lovely little cameras. They'll make you fantastic images all day long. All right, so we've also got some, we'll come back to Sony, we'll look at full frame Sony soon, but I'm going to look at Fujifilm cameras next, and I do love the Fujifilm cameras. They give beautiful colors. They're usually their images are usually a little sharper than those from other cameras, or they often are anyway, because of the sensor, which is an X-trans sensor rather than a Bayer sensor, and the pixels are a little more scattered in an X-trans sensor. They're not random, but they do reproduce the randomness of film. It's a very sharp sensor, and it's a very film-like sensor as well. So let's talk about the XE1 camera. The XE1, that's a lovely little rangefinder form factor camera, as in it has no hump on the top. I don't know what's going on that roof. There's some sort of bird party, I think, going on up there. But anyway, it has a nice little rangefinder form factor with the viewfinder at the corner of the camera. There's no SLR style hump. And I do like that form factor, actually. I do prefer a small camera, and I find the rangefinder factor really easy to use. As I've said, this is an APS-C camera. There are no Fujifilm full frame cameras. There is a bigger than full frame, a medium format digital sensor, but there is no full frame. All the smaller Fujifilm cameras are APS-C, and no worse for that, apart from perhaps a little more noise at higher ISOs. Now this camera, the XE1, has a beautiful sensor. It was the first X-Trans sensor, called the X-Trans 1. It's a 16 megapixel sensor, and it's the same as in the XE1. This is a very beautiful sensor. It's hard to describe how lovely it is, so I won't describe it. I'll just let some of the images speak for themselves. Just gorgeous, delicate colours, beautiful tones, lovely balance. I can't praise it highly enough. It's just a gorgeous sensor, one of the nicest I've ever shot. This camera is great for shooting modern lenses, but it's not so good for shooting vintage lenses because it's only got one colour of peaking, and that's white. So very often, if the background is light or bright in colour, then you can't see the peaking. You just literally cannot see it, and you more or less guessing where the focus point is. So vintage lenses, this one, the XE1, isn't great for, I've got to say. But if you just want a body for modern lenses, for your modern Fujifilm lenses, this one's lovely. I think it's best reserved for autofocus lenses. The video capability isn't that great, so certainly don't buy it for video, because the video included in Fuji cameras at this time wasn't really fantastic at all. In fact, it was somewhat less than fantastic. Not very good resolution and a little bit jittery and stuttery. So fine for short clips of, you know, family and days out and so on. No good for a short or an ad or a music video, whatever else you might want to make that looks, you know, really nice and spot on. Next, we have the XE2, the Fujifilm XE2. That camera is available for £350 to £400, and this might be the pick of the bunch. It's a beautiful little camera. It's got the lovely little form factor. It's the same camera as the SE1, except, or that is to say, it has the same body as the SE1, XE1, but it's got a different sensor. It's got the X-Trans 2 sensor. That's a 16 megapixel sensor, and again, it's flipping lovely. It's just gorgeous. It's of a different character to the X-Trans 1 sensor. It doesn't have the same character and feel, but it's just gorgeous, and I think on balance this is Fujifilm's nicest sensor. The X-Trans 2 was Fujifilm's nicest sensor. The X-Trans 3 I shot a lot of. It's nice, but it's not as nice as the X-Trans 2. Same as the X-Trans 4 in the X-T3 that I've got now. It's not quite as nice as this X-Trans 2 sensor. That is the nicest one, and this camera, the XE2, has it. It's got 4 peaking colours, so it's great for vintage lenses as well as with modern lenses, and that's really nice to see. So I think this XE2 really is possibly the pick of the bunch. It's just fantastic. It's brilliant value. It's got that really wonderful sensor, and it's got 4 peaking colours as well. Great price, $350 to $400. However, another contender for pick of the bunch is the XT10. That's an SLR style camera with the hump on the top, SLR style hump on the top, the viewfinder hump. That sells for £300, and that too has the X-Trans 2 sensor. This is the cheapest way to get the X-Trans 2 sensor, so this camera too might be the pick of the bunch. It's a slightly cut down XT1. It's missing some of the features from the XT1, but honestly, I've shot one you're not going to miss those features. You're just not going to miss them. On the X-T1, they are sometimes nice additions to have, but you absolutely don't miss them on the X-T10. It's a fully featured camera and it's got all you need. And it's the cheapest way to buy the X-Trans 2 sensor, which in my opinion is the nicest Fujifilm sensor, hands down, no question about it. You can get that sensor in the X-T1. That sells for £350 to £500. That's a more fully featured rangefinder style camera. It's got more features. It's not much more expensive than an X-T10, £150 or thereabouts. And I think overall it's probably the nicest to use of the X-T cameras. It gives the nicest images of the X-T cameras. It's not quite as large as later cameras were. It's no good for video. It's got absolutely dreadful video. When I say absolutely dreadful, of course, that's in quotation marks compared to what cameras can do now. It's fine for, you know, days out, holidays, quick shots of the kids or the dog or whatever it might be, but don't try and make a music video or an ad with it, because it's just not going to work unless you want a really, you know, unless you want that really sort of old school video look. But it might be the X-T10 is the pick of the bunch here. Right, that's the Fujifilm X-T cameras, and now we're going full frame. So buckle up and strap your seatbelts in, because here we go. Firstly, we've got the Sony A7, the original Sony A7 Mark I, which now sells currently for £200 to £300, probably nearer 200 actually. I sold my one recently a few months back. I think I got about £220 for it. It was a well-used model, so if you want a really pristine one, you might need to pay a little more, but I doubt you'll pay any more than £300. This camera is fantastic in many, many ways. First of all, it's small. This is a really small camera, and the body, apart from the viewfinder hump on top, the SLR style viewfinder hump, the body's not much bigger than the A6000. So that's a massive achievement, to pack that huge sensor into a tiny little light, you know, non-cumbersome body is a real technical achievement, a technical tour de force in its day, as far as I'm concerned. It's a nice sensor. It's got 24 megapixels, so it's good resolution. The colours are nice. The Sony colour science wasn't as well developed when the original A7 was released, but the colours are nevertheless pretty good, and especially in good light they tend to become fantastic, and they are comparable to you know, later A7 cameras, the A7 II, the A7 III, and they're not too much different, so they're very nice colours. Autofocus is always said to be slowish, but I never found it slow. I always found it fine on the many autofocus lenses I used on that camera. It does have rubbish battery life though. You know, if you're going out shooting, a battery's going to last you an hour or two at most, and you won't do many shots in that time. So take a few spares with you. Those are vital if you've got one of these cameras. But it is a genuinely good, genuinely capable camera. Video's reasonable. I wouldn't buy it as a video camera, but it's not bad. I made several episodes on this channel using it, and it was always reasonable. I could see it was not the very, very best, but it was okay to use. And it's certainly better than things like you know, video from the X-T1 or the X-T10. So video's reasonable, and this, as far as I can see, as far as I can tell, this is the cheapest way to full frame. If you want the cheapest full frame camera in the world, this is it. This is a genuinely good, genuinely very capable camera, and a very, very likable camera too. It's not quite the cheapest way to full frame, we'll come to that shortly, but it is a really cheap way into full frame camera photography, if that's what you want to do. Why would you want to get into full frame? Well, I think The biggest reason, two of the biggest reasons, increased light gathering capability, although APS-C cameras are really good now and they can shoot really high ISOs before they begin to get noisy. The other reason is if you want to shoot vintage lenses and you want to see, you want all the character of the lens to come through onto the sensor. So there's no real reason as such that you should be shooting full frame, but if you want to, this is a really cheap way to do it. There's also the A7 II at around about £400. This camera has faster autofocus, although I always found the autofocus on the Mark I to be pretty good. Nevertheless, this is said to be quicker if you want really snappy, quick autofocus. It is unfortunately a slightly larger camera, and that is regrettable. The A7 cameras did grow in size over the years, I guess, as more and more tech had to be or needed to be packed into them. But I'm sorry to see the passing of that really small Mark I body. That was lovely. Nevertheless, it's not too big, it's not a monster. The sensor, I think, is the same. It's the same 24 megapixel color sensor. The color science is broadly similar also from examples that I've seen, although caveat, I've never shot a Mark II, and it does have better video as well. So if you want a camera that does better video than the A7 Mark I, this one will do it. A very nice camera, available for £400. The next camera I'm going to tell you about is the cheapest way into full frame. It's the Canon 5D Mark I from all the way back in, I think, something like 2005. I'll put the exact date on screen, but this really is quite an old camera now. It's got 12 megapixels. You might think that's not very much, and it isn't compared to 60 or 70 or whatever it is that cameras have nowadays, but 12 megapixels is plenty, especially if you don't want to crop. You can crop a little bit from 12 megapixels. You can crop down to, I don't know, 7, 6, even 5 megs from 12, so you can do some cropping. But as far as I'm concerned, 12 megapixels is plenty and is all you need. Now you can adapt lots of vintage lenses, even though it's not a mirrorless camera and technically doesn't belong in this company. It's so good I couldn't ignore it. You can adapt lots of vintage lenses to it. For example, the Olympus Zuiko lenses, the M42 lenses, lots of other lenses also. Why? Because the Canon has a pretty short flange distance, and that's the distance between the back of the lens and the sensor. So the flange distance is not as short as a mirrorless, which is tiny, but it is pretty short, so it can adapt lots and lots of vintage lenses. And of course there are loads of modern lenses to fit it as well. I found it difficult to focus when I shot it when I was using vintage lenses, because there's no prism on the screen. There's no focusing prism on the screen, but you can get one. You can get a focusing prism that will just slide into it and just slip into the camera, and you will then have a focusing prism, so when you turn the lens, it's just like looking through an old optical film SLR. And those are the best viewfinders in my opinion, or at least that's probably one of the best ways of focusing. You just can't beat it. Even focus peaking, it's probably somewhere around as good, but I'm not sure if it is quite as good as a nice prism on the ground glass screen there. So this is an old camera, but it's a pro quality camera. Anyone you get is likely to have a lot of shutter clicks on it, but these will last and last and last and last and last. They don't tend to break down, at least according to the research I've done. They're available for around £200. They're the cheapest way into full frame. They're a fantastic old camera. So if you're looking to get into full frame really cheaply, this one could very well be the one for you. Finally then, there is also the Canon 5D Mark II, and that sells for around about £400 or thereabouts, and I think that was released in about 07, 08, somewhere around that time. It's got lots more megapixels, 21 megapixels, this camera has, and that is plenty to play with. You can crop to your heart's content using 21 megapixels if that's what you want to do, and then that's a very high-res camera. Not quite as high as they are these days, but entirely high enough. It does reasonable video as well, and I seem to recall this camera was used for quite a lot of TV serials. I think there was an episode of House that was made on it. There were various ads made on it. Lots and lots of short movies were made on it. So the video quality is really pretty good. I'm not sure, I don't suppose it's quite as good as you know, later cameras. I don't think it has 4K on it. I think it's far too early for that. But it does have really good 1080 video, and 1080 video is not to be sniffed at. 4K, yeah, it's all right if you want really high res, but it makes massive files and it's not always the solution. 1080 in my view is perfectly fine, so it does nice video. These are newer cameras than the 5D Mark I, so there won't be so much wear and tear on them, and again, these are pro quality cameras, and you can adapt, of course, all the same lenses to these Mark IIs as you can to the Mark Is. So, as you'll see, there is no shortage of cheap mirrorless cameras that you can buy, and whether you're looking for another camera to replace something that you've already got, whether you're just dipping a toe into mirrorless photography for the first time, however you're coming to it, these cameras are all fantastic to start with, and they're all fantastic also to carry on with. You do not need the latest fanciest kit to be a good photographer. If you're a good photographer, if I can get the words out of my mouth, if you're a good photographer, you can make a fantastic image with any camera, full stop. So there we are. That is about it from me for today. I would like to thank everybody who has watched this video, and if you've got this far, particular and a special thanks to you. If you've enjoyed this episode, you might want to chuck us a sub. That would be very much appreciated. Many thanks to subscribers for your support. That is genuinely appreciated. Thank you for that. Many thanks to patrons for your support. That is genuinely appreciated. Thank you for that. If you think this channel is doing a reasonable job of keeping this old kit, cameras and lenses alive, then you might want to become a patron also, and I would very much appreciate that. You can do that over at www.patreon.com/Zenography, and you can do that for as little as $1 per month. As for me, that's about it for now, and if you're not doing anything too bothersome, irritating, irksome, difficult or strenuous next week around this time, please do check in and join me for a spot more Zenography. Cheerio all.